40-year story of Encompass is the story of competition, innovation, and success. For over 100 years, we were stuck in the era of monopoly and tethered to the past. But new innovators brought new competition, and that competition transformed our world. Their passion took us from long-distance calls to the internet in your pocket. Our story is the story of great women and great men who saw the world differently. Builders, creators, connectors, streamers, and dreamers. As we celebrate this special landmark, we are honored to hear their stories because in our history, we see our future.
I think there's a reasonably straight line between events that began literally 48 years ago and the association and its anniversary. 48 years ago at the Justice Department, a group of us began an investigation of the old Bell system of AT&T. It had experienced a little bit of competition at that point as a result of FCC activities and some judicial decisions, but it was quite nascent. And because of complaints about competitive activities, we had occasion to begin a formal investigation. That formal investigation involved both, as one would imagine, lawyers, but also economists. And before the investigation gone very far, the lawyers had concluded that the old Bell system had engaged in exclusionary acts to prevent competitors from intruding on a territory that was exclusively theirs for the better part of 70 years. But the economists had found a kind of broader and in a sense, more interesting, more abstract set of concerns. And those, I think, are the enduring elements of the actual case and the divestiture. What the economists posited was that if the telephone monopoly were broken up, it would lead to much more industry dynamism. It would lead to many more factors playing in the industry with a much more progressive industry overall, spurred by competition. And it turns out not only that they were right, but it also turns out that the association and its members are the kind of proof point that they were right. The divestiture itself was enormously complicated. Again, raising the reality that effective representation of all players, all stakeholders, was essential if it was going to be successful. And it was at that point, roughly, that the predecessor of INCOMPAS was formed. And it found more than enough to do as the institutional arrangements that we've become accustomed to, things like the internal subsidies in the phone business, things like the question of how interconnection would be enabled, what would be the appropriate places geographically for interconnection, what should be the prices that could be paid and or extracted to complete traffic, what about vending to the now soon to be divested phone companies, a whole range of very important questions, both to the industries involved. One interesting factoid in this that gives an indication of just how complicated this process was all through the 1980s as things were being straightened out was in one of the proceedings before Judge Green, who continued to preside over the divestiture. 150 lawyers entered an appearance in one proceeding. Kind of interestingly enough, one of those lawyers is now the Chief Justice of the United States. And of course, what we see today is the kind of dynamism that the Justice Department economists had predicted back very nearly 50 years ago. If one looks at the membership list of ENCOMPAS today, you see virtually no names on that list that would have meant anything to anyone the better part of 50 years ago, and indeed the better part of 4 years ago when the divestiture occurred. And yet today they are central players, again, in one of the most progressive industries, one of the most progressive sectors in our economy.
Happy anniversary, ENCOMPAS. Thanks for all the terrific work over the past 40 years.
Happy 40th birthday, Encompass.
Happy anniversary. Congratulations on 40 wonderful years of powering the broadband industry forward.
Happy anniversary, Encompass. We look forward to continuing our work with you.
Happy anniversary, Encompass. There is much to celebrate and give thanks for over these 40 years.
ACT was the facilities-based forerunner of CompTel in the same way that Alltel was the reseller forerunner of CompTel. And we spent 1976 through 1980 fighting the Bell companies, fighting the old AT&T, who were trying to stop competition. And I think it was fair to say the good guys won. The most important thing, of course, about alts was that it was fiber optic based. And, fiber didn't really begin until 1985. And it was a revolution. It was a sort of a once in a lifetime technical revolution. You had this radical technology change in fiber optics that gave new entrants a substantial cost and capability advantage versus the incumbent telephone companies at the time, who had this huge legacy copper-based network that was more costly to operate, had fewer capabilities than fiber. And while the telephone companies installed fiber, they had a mix, an inefficient mix for 10 years through, I would say, 1995, whereas the CAPs and then the CLECs had a clean slate with a great new technology. And so they had this advantage, both in cost and in capabilities for that decade. It was during that same time that government policy changed radically from protecting monopolies, the Bell monopolies, even the AT&T monopolies in long distance, to competition. And, I saw that up close. We had some very smart and very patient investors who were willing to take a long range look at local competition, going head to head with huge multi-billion-dollar Bell companies to put up hundreds of millions of dollars to begin that competition. That was important because if you have the regulatory authority and you have a great technology, it's all useless unless you have the investors behind you. And we did. Organizations like Encompass are pretty essential to changing and preserving the competitive landscape. And so we were only outnumbered by the Bell monopolies 10-1. ACT, alts, CompTel, and now Encompass are a way that competitive entrepreneurial competitors can overcome that 10-1 disadvantage by amplifying and coordinating their individual resources. And I think that is a very important role, which I'm very happy to see that Encompass continues to do.
One of the things that makes Encompass special and unique is that they have a team that really understands strategy and advocacy in Washington, that they're not just a trade association.
Encompass understands the competition is always evolving. So from fiber to 5G and beyond that, innovators know that Encompass is always willing to fight for what's next.
Encompass is never afraid of a fight, and they take on giants, they take on the debates and policy battles that others have said are, unwinnable, and somehow they find a way to succeed.
Happy birthday, Encompass. You've gotten old since over the last few years, but I remember you from way back when. I want to take us back just a little bit to note that the 1996 Telecommunications Act was in fact a huge bipartisan achievement. More than 400 people in the House of Representatives voted for it. Almost 80 senators voted for it. Little hard to believe in our divisive times that you could have a complete overhaul and restructuring of all of the different markets in media and communications and have that be bipartisan. But the fundamental reason that occurred was because of the idea that animated Encompass and has done so for these decades. And that is the idea of competition. But it's not just an economist idea. It's an idea about freedom and entrepreneurship and creativity and innovation. That's what we mean when we talk about competition. We mean that somebody can just start a business and have a chance to succeed in the market because the government won't enshrine a monopoly and it'll indeed break up monopolies where they do exist. And then with that freedom to create, we'll see if we can't better the world for everybody, not just the shareholders, although they should make money when the firm is successful, but also the customers, the users, and all of society. That fundamental idea drew bipartisan support, and that idea, furthermore, once the 1996 Act, as I think reasonably implemented by the FCC, once it opened the door to a tremendous wave of innovation, what we got in the 90s is what subsequently has correctly been called the golden decade. That's the decade in which everything that was supposed to go up went up, and everything that was supposed to go down went down. It was so spectacular from a federal government perspective that the budget went into surplus. That's a little hard to believe, but it actually happened. And in every income quintile, the median wages went up through the 1990s.
We fought at the state and federal levels and in the courts, with the association providing the leadership and the resources. I have seen our faithful members and staff fight for the right to compete in the telecom industry over all these years to build the competitive broadband industry into what it is today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Chip Pickering for including me, and congratulations to Encompass on your 40th anniversary. Unbelievable. This occasion is a great opportunity to look back on the amazing digital revolution that has taken place over the last several decades. And I don't have to tell this group how the passage of the 1996 Telecommunications Act was the catalyst in that revolution. It's amazing to think that before Congress passed the bipartisan 1996 Act, almost no one in America had high-speed internet access. That was only 25 years ago. I'm proud of how the 96 Act triggered paranoia-inducing Darwinian competition in the marketplace, unleashed trillions of dollars of private sector investments, connected millions of children to the internet, and helped catalyze an explosion of digital innovation that has transformed American life. We have to animate technologies with our values. That was our approach when we crafted the 1996 Act, and that must be our approach moving forwards. So, congratulations to Encompass on your 40th anniversary. I've loved working with you in the past, and I look forward to working with you on these critically important issues in the months and years ahead. Congratulations.
Let me begin by thanking Encompass for 40 years of service to the technology and network industry. You do a tremendous job, and we appreciate it. 1996, when we passed, I thought, really a watershed piece of legislation to advance American competition and industry in technology, and it's been amazing the effect that it has had. It wasn't easy. Like today, there was a lot of division in Washington. The president was Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich was the speaker, I was the majority leader, and there was a lot of disagreement within the House, the Senate, and between the Congress and the president. But we recognized that this was an important issue. It was about America being able to compete in the very important technology area, and we were determined to get it done. So, and we had quite a mix of Democrats and Republicans. Of course, Newt and I were involved, people like John Dingell, Markey, from the congressman at the time from Massachusetts. But we kept talking. We were determined we were going to find a way to get it done. I must say that President Bill Clinton was a critical part of making it happen. I remember when we had the final meeting in the Library of Congress across from Capitol Hill, the president was on the phone and helping to make it happen. So we did find a way to work together. And I remember Chip Pickering and I had a meeting with Fritz Hollings, Senator, Democrat from South Carolina. He was giving us a hard time, but he thought I was giving him a hard time. So we went down and met with the senator in his office with his staff. And about 15 minutes later, we came out and we had an agreement. That's how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to provide leadership. You're supposed to communicate. And you're supposed to do what is good for America. The 1996 Telecommunications Act was a tremendous achievement.
You have advocated on behalf of communities across the United States for 40 years to make sure that they have broadband, infrastructure, and internet technology to allow communities throughout the United States to stay competitive.
They're so aligned with the public interest community on fights that benefit consumers, families, schools, and libraries.
And we are grateful for the work that Encompass has done to build relationships with city leaders and municipalities.
I've been a member for over 20 years and really appreciate all you do for the industry and companies like Unity.
Thank you, Encompass, for all you do to support our industry. Your advocacy at local, state, and federal levels removes barriers and creates opportunities for broadband providers like Zenfi as we deploy our 5G-enabled networks.
Encompass was born in an amazing time. Our new networks became the backbone of the internet age. Almost overnight, an idea could move from a garage or a dorm room into the homes of people around the world. The new forms of communication and commerce that were unleashed would reshape each and every industry. Ensuring a free and open internet, one that mirrored the free market principles our nation was built on, was absolutely critical to this transformation. And there was a great responsibility we had then and still have today, to connect everyone, no matter where they live. Happy birthday, Encompass. Thank you for your contribution over 4 decades to promote innovation and competition in the communications market.
TW Telecom started providing Ethernet. We were one of the first and definitely, according to one of the largest equipment providers of Ethernet boxes, they told me that we dragged them kicking and screaming into Ethernet. We started providing it in 2001. I remember several years later standing in front of a room of 80 customers and saying, until we came in to talk to you about Ethernet, did any other incumbent provider come in and talk to you about it? And no one raised their hand. It wasn't until we showed up with it that then they said, okay, we'll do it. So competition is what drives innovation.
The competitive industry brings innovation, and without innovation, Encompass wouldn't exist. Because while we still laud the breakup of AT&T, the truth is the older incumbents worked really hard to put themselves back together again after the divestiture. Through the consolidation and acquisitions, Encompass lost some incredible champions, and we had to fight against bigger telecom giants with greater market power and lobbying forces. But Encompass wins because our members innovate, and those innovations change the marketplace. It was competition that brought Ethernet. It was competition that brought VoIP. It was competition that brought cloud, and it was competition that brought streaming.
This is Rob Hale. I'm the president of Granite. Encompass is a family affair for us. My father in the 90s was chair of TRA. In the 2000s was chair of Encompass, or Comtel, I believe it was at the time. Competition and Encompass have been part of my family and my close friends for years. And at Granite, we're honored to be part of your family. Thank you for allowing a company like Granite to flourish for the past 20 years and candidly the next 20 years. Thank you.
What I value the most about the benefits of competition is that competition is a permanent affordability solution. It drives down prices and enables more innovative opportunities for families and small businesses too. In my time at the FCC, I focused on broadband policies and programs that had the potential to lift all communities as we climb, so that every community, large or small, rural or urban, could take part in the digital revolution. And Encompass was always in my corner in that fight.
I'm curious too about the discrepancies that exist between price and speed. In Pittsburgh, for instance, I can get 500 megabits a second, but it costs me about $400 a month. When we look at cities like Chattanooga and Kansas City and Austin and other cities, residents can get a gig for less than $100.
The bipartisan movement to deliver faster networks faster to communities all across the country is truly a stunning achievement for Encompass.
When we wade into fights like tech transitions or internet for all, it's always great to have Encompass in our corner because they add substantive expertise and a long history of doing the right thing.
Sonic relies on the 1996 Telecom Act as we build advanced fiber optic networks in our region that connect homes, schools, and businesses.
It's exciting
to celebrate Encompass's 40th anniversary. My goodness, think of how the world has changed in those 40 years and the role that Encompass and its members have had in driving that change. But I'll tell you what's really sticks in my mind is you may recall when I was chairman, I made it clear that I stood for three things: competition, competition, competition. And Encompass was always in that fight on the side of competition, fighting for consumers, fighting for small businesses, and fighting for that good old American tradition of a competitive marketplace. So happy birthday to Encompass, and thank you for all that you have done to help promote the idea of a competitive marketplace.
Happy birthday, Encompass.
Thank you for always looking to the future.
Congratulations, and thank you to Encompass for 40 years of competitive advocacy.
And we are so honored and pleased to be a part of this organization. We look forward to 40 great more years, and we're grateful to be a part of Encompass. Thank you very much.
On behalf of schools, libraries, and our company, ENA, we wish you a happy 40th birthday and 40 more years to come.
What an honor it is to be able to wish Encompass a happy 40th birthday. If you're a consumer living in an apartment building looking for a competitive broadband option, Encompass has been your friend. If you're a fiber provider looking to access a utility pole in a cheaper and quicker way to provide competitive access, Encompass has been your friend. I dare say, if you're the chairman of the FCC and you're looking for a thoughtful ally as you seek to reform broadband regulations to give consumers better options, Encompass has been your friend. Congratulations to Chip Pickering, the entire team at Encompass, and to all of Encompass's members for all they have done over the past 40 years to connect Americans. Here's to another great run in the future.
As we celebrate 40 years of Encompass and our history, deep and rich, the one word that comes to mind is resilient. Over the last 20 years, we fought great battles to preserve, protect, and promote competition. Mergers, acquisitions, changes in technology, all things that we champion, changed the marketplace dramatically, and we had to change with it. Our move to unite competitive fiber builders and networks with streaming and internet innovators was a game changer. It helped launch the streaming revolution that we see today. So I'm very proud of where Encompass is today, that we have thrived through all of the difficulties, the challenges, and the successes to now be positioned to be the voice of competition for the future.